This is a 1/8 scale rally car from HPI. There's a center diff in here. It's a beautiful big car. I mean, it's 4S capable and it's got a list price of $299 US. What's the catch? How can you get so much car for, 75% the list price of a /4x4 VXL, which is, I think, the one to compare it to, because what's to stop you from slapping a rally body onto the Slash and then having a rally car? I mean, it's not that different. I think we should take a look at this and see if we can find out exactly what's going on. The branding is Maverick Quantum, but the manufacturer is HPI, and we've looked at the HPI jump shot among other cars in the not too distant past. This is a 4-wheel drive 1/8 scale rally car. It comes with a 2250 kV 3674 motor. That's pretty decent. It's got a hefty heatsink on it. There's a molded rear diffuser. You've got aluminium, oil-filled adjustable shocks, metal gear steering servo, and there's a center differential with what looks to be a max 8 or equivalent 120 amp brushless ESC. It's quite an attractive car too. Quite attractive treads, tires on attractive wheels. I mean, even with the ground clearance on this thing, the whole thing just looks pretty nice. So with all that being said, what exactly makes this car tick, and are you actually sacrificing on quality or something else if you buy this thing instead of some other more expensive rally car? Let's take a look. We'll get the lid off it. We'll have a look at what it comes with as well, and we'll just see what we can see. Okay, so here's a photo of what's in the box. It's a rather austere little collection of things. There's the car itself, a radio, and a manual, and that's it. I've read the manual. It's got an exploded parts diagram in it, and it basically says how often to maintain or check some of the parts in there, and what to look out for. It really is quite basic. Speaking of basic, the radio is basic too, and I can feel it creaking and moving in my hand. Like, I can actually feel the two parts of this. Let me see. Yeah. It's the cheapest cruddy radio, but it is 2.4 gig, and there's there's confusingly a third channel button up in here, but even if you get your thumb up on it, and I'm actually injured at the moment, but if I ignore the pain for a second, press it, it's really hard to press. 4 AA's, comfortable enough wheel. I'd say the ergonomics aren't great. I'd like the wheel to be forward and maybe out of it, but I mean, it's functional. Trigger feels all right, wheel feels okay. You've got dual rate for the steering, trim for your steering and throttle, and it says channel 2 endpoint adjustment, high and low. I don't fully understand that. The high I can understand, but the low I couldn't quite work out. I've just left it how it is out of the box. Channel reverse and bind button. Really basic radio. Honestly feels quite cheap, but it does have a rubber wheel. The aero is quite attractive. It's got very rally-esque spoiler on the back. It's a nice rubbery plastic too that bolts in from underneath the Lexan body, and an attractive wing as well. Rear diffuser, and that's going to give you some extra protection. Now, there's nothing in front of the body here. There is foam underneath. In the event of a front impact, it should help save it, but this is still going to get cracked up and hurt. But you got to choose how you drive this thing. It was advertised when I bought it as a road car, but it's set up for off-road. We've got off-road tires, we've got off-road clearance, certainly. Massive suspension travel for this kind of car. Body is held on by 1, 2, 3, 4 body pins, and it's suspended underneath there, so there's precious little protection of this body. But if you drive it like a rally car, well, maybe you'll be all right. It says it takes from 2 to 4S, and I've decided on 3S as the one to use. Now, you may be exclaiming if you're used to seeing RC cars, and if not, let me say it for you. Crikey, that's a big motor for a little car. It's a big motor. A 3674 means you've actually got considerable length. It's nice to see a pretty decent heatsink on it too. Max 8 looking ESC. It was actually loose when I pulled it out just before, but I've just stuck it down with fresh tape. There's your button. It really does look like a hobby wing. I've also chopped off the T connector or the Dean's connector and stuck an AC5 on to match my battery. And we've got a 6 amp 3S battery here, and that's a standard size hard pack and it fits in quite okay. Servos here with no servo saver on the horn, which is nice to see. There is a servo saver on the bell crank and it's thumb screw adjustable. It's on the left hand side. Struts here, they're just composite, but that's nice enough. You might notice there's a mid-mounted diff. There's a center diff in here, and you've got steel dog bone shafts coming out to each end. You've got 3 oil-filled diffs in this thing, and they're actually quite stiff, but it's, I reckon, about right for this kind of thing. There's a bit of preload already stuck on the rear shocks, and there's none on the front. Now, these shock towers are also made of this composite bendy material, and given this is a honeycomb reinforced plastic tub chassis, I wouldn't want to take this to go and get big air at a BMX park or something, but I suspect it'd actually probably take it, but I wouldn't recommend it. This is designed for small berms and stuff like that. Mainly it's designed for rally courses, rally type driving. So pretend you're sitting in here as a real driver, and anything you subject this car to will be absolutely fine. Start going big enough to hurt yourself if you were sitting inside the thing, if it was full size, and I think you might start to find the limits of its durability. There are the holes here for sway bars as well, but I don't see any place where sway bars could be installed on the machine, so I don't know that these would be available aftermarket. They might be. Sway bars might be useful, maybe not. Now, I started this video saying what's the catch, because at $299 list price and probably closer to $250, $240 in the US, yeah, that's an awful lot of car for a 4S brushless 4-wheel drive system with steel running gear. Everything in this is metal as far as your drivetrain goes, and to get, you know, the center diff, and it's a quality ESC. What's the catch? I found 2 things so far that you might attribute to being a catch, but not really. This cheap plasticky radio, but if it works, that's still okay. But perhaps it's just going to be a question of design shortcomings, maybe. I took this for a little drive, literally just sitting here, put the battery in, just took it for a spin here, where I'm just sitting on some gravel and down and back up. We're on chunky kind of gravel here, just on my driveway. One of those got stuck in there and was sitting against the rear arm, or I don't know, some part of the hub assembly, and it locked the wheel up. Reversing, didn't get rid of it, so I had to pick it up and shake it, and then it fell out. So perhaps there are going to be some little shortcomings like that. They are shielded bearings, but they're just metal shielded bearings, so while you can get this wet, and it is rated to be water resistant, I suppose the bearings would need lubrication after wet running. It looks like it's been thoughtfully designed. Okay, just to get used to this car, a couple of laps. This is literally the first time it's ever been driven. Oh, so that jump might be a little bit big or sharp for it. This is not a basher. Oh man, the pretty body's all scratched and the rear took a bit as well. This won't take many of those. Oh yeah, I'm liking these tires, eh? There's just enough slide. It starts to slide out the rear, and then it just hooks up. Gosh, it's satisfying. Oh boy. All right, so this car is going to reward careful driving. It sounds really tough too. I've barely touched the throttle yet. Oh! Scale roll. Must have hit a rock. This is more of a bashing track, this. I still haven't gone past about a third throttle. Now it's 4S capable, but we're only running on 3S. That was a full Barry's takeoff and it just ran its tires. Let's go find a rally track. This was nice, but I don't want to ruin the car. Now I haven't tuned the ESC at all, and you will notice if you drive this, come on, that the braking is really, here I'll show you the braking now. So the braking's turned right down, easily fixed. Here comes full speed, 3S, and full braking. Now if you're wondering, there's no gyro in this thing. I reckon it'd be an awful mess without a center diff, but it is controllable. I just need to learn to drive this car a bit better. Oh, not UV stabilized, clearly. Whoop, whoop, barely touched it, officer. I'd say they've geared it about right, in my very expert rally driving opinion. It is fun. It is fun. Let's have a look at it. It's been running for a while now. It's still on. I don't hear any fan though. I reckon that fan's been jammed up by debris. Oh! Oh dear. The fan wasn't running on this thing. It's been jammed with debris. The motor's very hot. That's too hot to touch that. Now, again, it's on 3, not 4S. I wouldn't want to have done this driving on 4S, honestly. I think this is going to be something like the desert trucks, the Baja Rays and whatnot. If you're into scale driving, this could be quite good. We're just going to give that little fan a break. I'm just going to blast it and I'll come back to you. Well, I tell you what, cleaning that thing was nothing short of arduous. It took a good 15 minutes to get all the stuff out. There's a honeycomb basin here for strength, but it's a trap for gravel and grass and stuff. And as soon as I was done with one section, I'd move on to the next one, and then there'd be more just flying out. There's so much stuff captured in here, I couldn't believe it. I've never had a car, an off-road car, that took so much effort to clean. That was with an air compressor, not a little brush. I had a proper air compressor going, and I was going for like 10 or 12 minutes at least. The motor really needed that heatsink too. It was too hot to touch, like burning hot to touch. And it's covered in chips as well, I guess from this front wheel, which is inside the body. So the body's sitting outside. In fact, let's look at the body real quick. We took 2 or 3 tumbles. I've just hosed it off because it was filthy. It's got little bits of reflective glass in the mirrors too, like actual functioning mirrors, which is cool. How'd it fare? The plastics seem to have protected the body pretty well. There's some scuffing on it. The Lexan took a bit of a hit. The front corners took a bit of a hit as well. There's a dent on the inside of this body, which we can just probably pop out. You could apply heat if you were going to be really careful with it, but that's all right. So it's no longer straight, but I mean, it's at the front of the car, so that's going to happen. There are chips all over it from stones flicking up onto it. It's actually quite greasy in here as well. I suppose that'll be the shocks. And you can see where the body's been touching, there's black rubber marking on the inside of the body there, and the paint is already off, so you can already see through the body on both sides at the back. The front has touched as well on the insides back here. The paint's already worn off, so what this needs is protective tape on this corner section and all the way along. Pretty much, in fact, the upper sides of the body, I think, would be the way to do it. It was really, really fun. Kind of just accelerating around the cones, around the corners I wanted to do, and I could see someone having an absolute blast with this. There's a bit of effort involved in it, and it's going to fill with stones. It really could use some kind of shield up on the sides. That's what you need. Now this is the same video for you guys, but it's been half a week for me. Where I left off was this car was really hard to clean. It was absolutely full of debris to the point that the fan stopped working. There was just, I mean, I had grass clippings to be fair, but there was dust, gravel, sticks, leaves, the whole thing inside this car. Now, what I'm about to show you is ugly, but functional. I took a sheet of styrene, I cut it up. First I made 2 side pieces to just help keep the debris out from the wheels. So while the wheels are spinning, they're not chucking stuff into the car. Then I measured with the body on and made sure I had the room, and I do. And I've just got these deflectors on top. So I've used heat to bend this on. It's not completely symmetrical, but it's functional. And if this works well enough, maybe I'll design and 3D print something. But I mean, if this works, I don't mind that it's ugly because you don't see it under the body. Remember, these windows aren't transparent, so you really don't see it. Let's just see how it goes on 4S, and let's just see if everything's still running after the run. lucky. She crashes pretty hard. I can see that this car would be really fun on a rally appropriate surface. The car is certainly good, but what I wanted to point out was, aside from the fact that this is quite good if you're after rally, not if you're a basher though, it will be a frustrating drive if you're a basher. If you're into rally, here's what clinches this car for me and possibly for you. If I was to spend 70% of what I paid for this car, I'd be able to purchase this ESC and motor or its equivalent from Hobbywing. 70% of the price of what I paid just for the ESC and motor. That's about how much they cost. When you consider just how much car you get, aluminum shocks, waterproof everything. I mean, I hosed this down because it was filthy. The bearings aren't shielded, so you'll pay for that. But for what you get out of the box, I mean, there's a lot of car here for not a lot of money. So if you're into the idea of rally and you think you've got a place where you can drive it, big gravel parking lot kind of thing, that'd be great. Throw some cones down and you get a bit of a course happening. Amazing. It's not going to like big air, but it'll take some big smooth berms. So you find a nice BMX track and watch your speed so you don't get big air, or at least so that you meet the road when you land again. And I think this will be a very rewarding car to own. I'll put a link in the description of the manufacturer's page. I don't know if I can find a link to where you can get one, but I'll try. They're hard to get in the US as far as I can tell, but in Australia they're in the hobby shops. But for the money, my goodness, you can't really complain, can you? Thanks for watching, guys. Throw me a like and I'll catch you again on RC-TNT. Cheers.